Well, friends, I think it's going pretty well, or as well as we could possibly expect as Republicans. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Greetings and welcome to the What's Right Show, your place for common sense conservatism, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. Okay, this is the first time in my life that Republicans are ahead in messaging on a government shutdown. Every time one of these has happened, the narrative, the story is quite simple, quite straightforward. Mean Republicans, greedy Republicans, Republicans that hate the poor, Republicans that hate women and children, Republicans that want kids to die of cancer. You get the, you know how this always plays out. Are responsible for ... That's been the message. And the reason that the message has always been so successful is that it's aided and abetted by the media. Now, I'm noticing from my vantage point, and I'm quite frankly shocked, we'll get into some theories as to why it's going the way it is. The media is calling the Democrats out on their BS. Now, we're in day 2 of the shutdown. It's still early. I recognize that. But let's call it what it is. The last 24 hours, since we last spoke here on the What's Right show yesterday, the Democrats have had nothing but L's, meaning losses. It has been bad for them. They're going on their trusted networks. They're going on CNN. They're going on CBS. They're going on MSNBC, and they're getting their monies handed to them. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So my take on it is that it's just not going well because this is all about messaging. To recap, why are we here? We've got this shutdown. In the final version of the bill put forward by House Republicans, there was a clean CR, a continuing resolution that would fund the government for 7 weeks, allowing whatever issues the Republicans had, the Democrats had, to be ironed out over the course of those 7 weeks. The Democrats are the ones that said no. It got shut down in the Senate. So there it is. Now, the two questions that continue to come up to the media is, A, was it a clean CR? Meaning, was it really just, hey, we're going to keep doing exactly what we were doing this last fiscal year? Or did it have some entanglements in it? Did it have some catches? Did it have any poison pills? And the short answer there is no, it didn't. It's that simple. The other question is, and this is the one that we've been hearing a lot about, is how much of, this Medicare money is going to illegal immigrants? How much health care are we subsidizing at the federal level for illegal immigrants? And, yesterday we went through a series of clips that were actually quite confusing because the Democrats couldn't even agree amongst themselves, how much, or if any, federal tax dollars was going to illegal immigrants and their medical bills. And it turned into this sort of circular firing squad. And I'll play some great clips. My impression is that tempers on the Democrat side are boiling over. And when you look at what the Republicans are doing, what the Republicans are saying, the Trump administration basically is completely content with the situation as is because they can actually exploit it to rid the federal workforce of thousands of jobs. That is the number. Thousands of jobs is how it was described today in a press briefing by Caroline Leavitt. So this is it. I mean, it's absolute curtains for the Democrats. And as I mentioned before, also just absolutely bad news for the aging political leadership, both in the House and certainly in the Senate. Chuck Schumer. I know. Hakeem Jeffries is the new face of House Democrats, but behind the scenes, Nancy Pelosi is still very much directing everything. Now, we're going to talk about messaging. I also talk about this meme stuff. The Democrats do not know how to meme. They don't know how to be funny. And part of the problem is that they've erased humor, from their from circulation on their side of the aisle. Everything is offensive. Everything needs to be run through a filter of liberal sensibilities. So when you keep doing that over and over again, you got everybody scared to do anything that's remotely that's even interesting. So I guess the Democrats, literally the Democrats, the DNC's channel, social media channels, put out a video. And it was, everybody's doing the AI stuff, and this is on the heels of Trump's sombrero and mariachi music memes that he put out there, videos that he put out there that were obviously augmented. The media melting down, putting disclaimers over this, saying this is a deep fake. And Republicans are laughing because we're going, wait, of course it is a deep fake. It's obvious that Chuck Schumer did not show up saying the things he did, and that the man standing next to him, Hakeem Jeffries, in front of the White House, was not actually wearing a sombrero and with a giant mustache. So these are the kind of things that have to be said. So the Dems put out their own meme. And it was this kitty war. Literally cats. I'll play it for you here after the break. They put out cats. It was a cat video. And it had two kittens. It had the Democrat kitten and it had the Trump kitten. And the Trump kitten, these kittens were not cartoons, but they were, generated, AI generated. So they were kind of this realistic cartoon type kitten, not cat, not grouchy, old, mangy, fat cat. No, they had Trump in this meme as this cute, adorable kitten dressed in a blue suit, white shirt, red tie. Trump's basic uniform. And I saw this yesterday. And my first thought, and Robbie, back me up on this. Very first, I said, Robbie, let's get this clip recorded before they take this down. I was convinced it was so bad. I was convinced the Dems would take it down. Now, why was it bad? The simple, straightforward rule, the first rule of memeing, is you do not make your enemies look absolutely adorable. That's a fail. And Trump was this adorable, cute little kitty cat, and they're like meowing at each other and whatever is going on in it. And it doesn't make him look bad. And it tries to explain that the Republicans are, at fault for the shutdown. But this is how bad it is. They can't even do the jokes right. Well, and then yesterday after the show, I get off air and I catch up on what's going on Twitter, and I see all of the minion filters that have been put on, for example, Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, and J.D. Vance, our Vice President. And I don't know. I mean, who doesn't like minions? I mean, again, minions are cute. I mean, these guys the Republicans are reposting this stuff. I immediately reposted. I said, this is funny. This is cute. This is humanizing hugely to J.D. Vance. And remember, anytime they've tried to do any kind of this type of stuff to J.D. Vance before, he's just adopted it and retweeted it and made fun of it, poked fun at himself. I'm enormously encouraged. This is an aside here, but it has to do with what's going on, too, with the shutdown. I'm enormously encouraged by J.D. Vance and the future for the Republican Party. He is proving to have excellent political instincts, and they're proving successful. So, all right, quick break here. I'll take you through all of this, but the long and the short of it is, Democrats are not doing well in this, and they're losing their grip on the media, which is going to be a separate thing we got to talk about here. Why is that going on? Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT, the What's Right Show, brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam & Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam & Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Welcome to the program, friends. Sam at what'srightshow.com. That's my email, at What's Right Sam on X. A bunch of you just followed me here in the last little bit. Grateful to have you. I do tweet. I do put stuff out there in between the shows that we have here Monday through Friday. So it's a great place for us to keep in touch. And also, I get many of you sending me good information, which I deeply appreciate. So yeah, do you guys know what I do here? This let me give you a little glimpse of my day. I know we got a lot to cover. I just want to give you a little idea here. I start my day usually around 8, sometimes 7:30, and then I've got my day job, right? So I'm an attorney. I handle clients. By the way, a couple clients from the show, referrals from the show. They've called and we've got them all taken care of. Everything was great. So I work the cases. I talk to people. I travel around town, meeting with clients, and then usually around 11, I sit down and I start to work on the show. And this is such a joy that I have every day, to be able to, put my thoughts together and have this, look forward to this time that you and I have, starting at 1, to pour through whatever it is that's going on. And I'll be honest, on days where I'm either buried at work or I'm traveling, I can't do the show, it pains me. I hate that. So love what I do. And today in particular, I'm going through all the material that I've accumulated together with producer Robbie since the end of the program yesterday. And I'm just amazed. I'm going through all the clips and my stack of stuff, and blown away at how badly the Democrats are handling all of this. Now, the kitty cat video, the meme video that was supposed to be the nuclear missile that answered Trump's sombrero gate posting the other day, really missed the mark. Here's I'm gonna play it here. I understand it's radio here, and most of you are not watching the Sam Cam, but basically there's a bunch of animated kitties and cats dancing around the screen. But you follow along here, and I'll describe it to you as well after it ends.
Republican and Democrat kitties cannot agree on what should be funded. Democrat kitties want you to have health care. Republican kitties do not. Republican kitties control the Senate, House, and the White House, so they're using that to cut your health care and give money to billionaires. Democrat kitty tries to negotiate, but Republican kitty keeps running away. He has a vacation to get to. Uh-oh, suddenly the money you pay for your health insurance has tripled. Thanks, Republicans.
That's it. That's what they've brought. I'm actually speechless. Now, it's bad because at the very same time that they're doing this, which is, let's get to the messaging, right? And if you're just joining us, the Trump kitten is super cute. So Trump just looks adorable. And Republicans have stolen this and now have begun remaking every video of Trump's famous moments, political moments, coming down the escalator, the first rally, the near assassination in Butler, Pennsylvania. They're remaking these classic scenes that have been caught on tape with little kitty heads over his head. They've taken it and they're running with it, and it's just, they've turned what the Democrats did basically into a joke. Now, at the very same time, and this is where it gets to me just, I think, so wild, that Hakeem Jeffries is still whining about having a sombrero put on his head. No, he's genuinely PO'd about this. Yesterday afternoon on Jake Tapper, Hakeem Jeffries was asked about this, and he just said, "I see no humor in it."
So you said erratic, and I believe you used the word unhinged the other day.
I did.
Are you trying to draw a line between President Trump's acuity, his mental state, and what's going on here with the shutdown?
No. I'm actually referring to some of his social media posts, which didn't seem to make a lot of sense.
The sombrero and the mustache?
Correct. Well, it would seem to me that as the President of the United States, on the brink of a government shutdown, if you actually wanted to bring everyone together to try to get to a resolution in a common sense, bipartisan way, that's not the type of behavior that we would see.
Yeah, but Trump did do that. You see, this is the difference between their clown show and substance. Trump did bring the sides together. And, and by the way, this is where Mike Johnson's been very unequivocal about it, describing that Oval Office meeting that, that happened on Monday, where Trump for hours negotiated with the Democrats and tried to get them to see reason. Johnson describes this, by the way, yesterday on CNN, getting asked about that White House Oval Office sit down.
Chuck Schumer was in the Oval Office with me, 48 hours ago. We were there. The president, as a strong leader, he brought all of us in, all four leaders, Thune and Schumer and myself and Hakeem Jeffries. And the president said, make your case. What is it you want? And Chuck Schumer repeated in that meeting what he put on paper. The counter proposal that he filed, everyone can go read it for themselves, would add $1.5 trillion in new spending on a 7-week stopgap measure. We're not doing that. He wants to give health care to illegal aliens again. We're not doing that. He wanted to claw back $50 billion that our Republican Big Beautiful Bill put in to prop up rural hospitals. Now, people say, why would he do that? I thought he was for health care. Well, a lot of those rural hospitals, most of them are in red states. So I don't know. I don't know what his motivation is, but we can't do it.
See, every time the speaker gets up and talks, right? Mike Johnson gets up, he is unflappable. I have my issues with him. There's things I think he ought to be doing differently. But in this particular instance, he's just, the Democrats are the ones that are running around getting crazy and losing their minds, especially when they're challenged on their version of this, which is, again, that pernicious lie that they keep telling, that it's not about money going to illegal aliens, when that is exactly what this is. They just come across looking defensive. And when you come across looking defensive, I'm telling this back to the messaging thing, it doesn't work. People feel it. They instinctively smell a rat. And that's really that's what's going on here. Okay, so CNN, all right. So CNN, right, normally this would be a network that would carry water heavily for the Democrats. But they're just not doing it. I'm going to give you some examples when we come back because they're good. There's actual pushback. Now, here's what I'll tell you about it. The reason this is happening is not because Jake Tapper or any of these other hosts, so-called journalists, are discovering light and reason. That is not the reason. They did not stop being partisan hacks. I'm actually convinced they're doing it for partisan reasons, and I'll get more into that here when we come back. But again, this is just, I'm flabbergasted at how inept the Democrats are how ineptly the Democrats are handling this. Absolutely astounding. All right, don't go anywhere. More of What's Right back after this. Don't go anywhere. Making radio great again. Sam Mirejovsky here, host of the What's Right show, brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law, the only law firm to trust with your injury case. And again, a couple of people here from the show, listeners, one referred a family member and the other called on their own behalf, joined the firm family in the last 24 hours. So we've signed them on as clients. Real easy phone call. That's all it took. And all the calls that they had to handle, all the nonsense voicemails from the insurance company, gone, done, over with. Sam & Ash Injury Law takes it over, handles it, done, and you can go on and move on with your life while we do all the hard work. It's perfect. Great setup. 702-820-1234. This is what you need. You need a great firm that does great work that you can trust to get some peace of mind. 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right. Now, I'll give you some of these clips here of pushback that Democrats are getting from the media. And it's largely unprecedented. This is last night, CNN, Hakeem Jeffries, Jake Tapper, talking about the question of whether illegal immigrants would be getting paid, their medical bills getting paid, under the Democrats' proposal. So this is the central issue. If the Democrats are fighting for health care payments, who are those health care payments going to?
I know you want to talk about, and Democrats want to talk about, extending the Obamacare subsidies, which expire at the end of 2025. But they talk about the provisions, and it's right here, subtitle E, and this has to do with the repeal of health care subtitle changes, and specifically what it is. How they characterize it is, you want to give health insurance to undocumented immigrants. I understand that's not really an accurate depiction, but what it does do is...
It's a lie.
It's a lie, but what you support does bring back funding for emergency Medicaid to hospitals, some of which does pay for undocumented immigrants and people who don't have health insurance. And also there is this provision, and it's not about undocumented immigrants, it's about people with asylum seekers and people with temporary protected status, et cetera, but about their ability to get Medicaid. So they're non-citizens, they're not undocumented, they're not illegal. Why even include that in a bill, knowing that they're going to seize right upon that and use that to message?
Yeah, why even do that? Why even give them, meaning to Republicans, this golden opportunity to run roughshod over you, you Democrats? Hakeem Jeffries wanted to, switch the topic, move on to something else. It's gotten so bad. And here's another example. This is just earlier today. Elizabeth Warren goes on with Tony DeCopel on CBS News, and well, judge for yourselves.
Republicans say what you're really fighting for is taxpayer dollars for, as they put it, illegal aliens. I know that's not strictly true, but there is a provision.
Excuse me, not strictly true.
It's not true directly, but
out lie. It is a flat out lie.
The way that they frame it.
There is nothing in Medicare that permits one undocumented immigrant to get $1 of assistance.
Senator, if you let me finish the question.
There is no change in the number of undocumented immigrants who get any help under what the Democrats want. Look,
Senator,
what we're looking for is help for people who are going to get pushed out of nursing homes, help for people who are at home and relying on home health aides.
This happened. This is Tony DeCopel. This is CBS News. Never thought I would live to see the day. So what's up here? And I'm convinced that some savvy Democrat propagandists, like those that work at CNN and MSNBC and CBS News, know that this is a losing proposition and are trying to get the Democrats to give up the ghost. I think they're subtly, very nicely, but directly letting them know that they're not going to carry water for them, because what really normally would happen, what would have happened in Trump's first term, is these media people would repeat the lie and categorically deny the assertions by Trump and by congressional Republicans that the Democrats are trying to do this. And they would get, and in the era of Elon Musk Twitter, X, certainly pre-social media, when we go back to Contract with America and the days of Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich and going into the Bush years, much more difficult back then for the truth to get out. So Democrats always had, the wind in their sails, if you will, was a compliant media that had tremendous facility in lying for the Democrats. It's great. They don't have it anymore. And so now there's these fissures. And at the same time, I also think that this issue, regardless, if this was about nursing homes, if this was about the elderly, if this was about, taking care of people less fortunate, the Democrats would actually have a solid argument. The problem is that the Republicans have the better argument because they're actually trying to protect the resources for the Americans that need it most. Look at what happened in California. California, a few years back, Gavin Newsom, who wants to be president, who thinks he's going to run the country into the ground, of course, he put out an announcement that was met with great applause then by the media and by the political left, that all illegal immigrants in the state of California would get medical care, with free medical care. That was a thing. And he said it would cost, if I remember right, somewhere like 9 or 10 billion. That was the number. He said it was going to be 2 billion. The number started to creep up. But it was like 2-3 billion. Okay, all right. California's budget is large, 50-60 billion a year. So people sort of applauded it. Of course, the Californians, a lot of them. I myself, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian, did not think it was a great idea, but many did. And that program has bankrupted California so badly that, to little fanfare, Gavin Newsom last year was forced to abandon it. He actually went on, and said, look, we're not taking any more enrollment. We're done accepting new coverage. We're just going to maintain the people that we have, and thank you very much. Nothing to see here. Because California went from a huge budget surplus to a massive budget deficit. This is, two things to this, right? Number one, of course, it's a money-losing drain if you keep paying for people who are non-citizens. But the bigger issue is you're degrading, by definition, you're degrading the services for everybody across the board because you're diluting resources. If you're a in California, Medi-Cal recipient, your services that you're getting are simply not as good as they were before this program, because the dollars have to be stretched further. And one of the ways that then you get yourself out of the hole is you start paying less for services, you start not covering everything, and you have to just roll everything back to get the program into black. This is what was happening at the federal level. California is just an extreme microcosm of it, an example of it that is illustrative of the kind of ideology that's being pushed by Senate Democrats, House Democrats, and some of their remaining friends in the media. And it is not popular with Americans. It just isn't. And this is why they're denying it. This is why they're hiding it. And they want the money because the money goes into all these community clinics, It goes to these big hospital groups. These are big, big donors to the Democratic cause. Of course they are. Who benefited in California when Gavin Newsom expanded this program? Who did that benefit? And don't tell me, of course, it benefited. Yeah, got it. The illegals that went there and got free health care. Okay. Who was making money off of this? Every hospital, every clinic, every doctor's office, MRI facility, everybody that was providing the health care suddenly got a massive influx of money. And these are the people that funneled all that money right back into Gavin Newsom's pocket, into Democrats' pockets. The trail is there. It was always about the bucks, the dollars, and the political power. And it's, the high level, of course, Democrats want illegals to eventually be made legal, to be integrated, to be dependent, to be grateful, and to vote. And in the interim, it's also nice when you can make a lot of money off of it and replenish your coffers. Because around the time that this was all happening, Newsom was fighting off a primary challenge, and he spent a lot of money on that. And everybody got to ask yourself, as the state is suffering, as all the stuff isn't going well, where was he getting all of that money? And he's getting it from people who have entrenched interests, financial interests, in seeing this type of I will say it's really just political perversion, public policy perversion happening at scale. No, it is. And there have to be some people in the media going, don't push this too much. Don't push this. Come on, congressional Democrats. You go too far on this. You go too far on this, we're going to have a problem. The whole thing might blow up. And I'm not even getting into what the OMB is doing, what Russell Vogt is doing. And I'll get to that next, because that's a huge part of the puzzle. Trump is sitting back going, hey, well, let it ride out. I'm going to get my Doge dream. Elon Musk is back in Trump's good graces. Who knows what could happen? Meanwhile, Democrats scurrying about making memes of cute little kitty cats, making Donald Trump look adorable. Nobody on our side has been able to do that. I mean, Democrats at this point might just pack it up and work for Trump. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. So, speaking of Gavin Newsom, I had to look this up during the break just to make sure I wasn't leading any of you astray. And here is what I can tell you. His program to pay for in California health care for illegals started all the way back in 2016. Children under 19. That's how it got snuck in. Then it was expanded to young adults. In 2021, older adults, 50 and above. And then as soon as his recall was announced, that's when they started expanding to 50 and older, and eventually 26 to 49. Billions of dollars flowed to the donors of Democrats, particularly Gavin Newsom, in the wake of this expanded coverage. Hundreds of thousands of people, billions and billions of dollars, bankrupting the state of California, all for his own political benefit. Now, that's what the Democrats want to do with the country. This is why they shouldn't be allowed anywhere to run anything, because this is what happens. And Republicans are holding firm on this. The government shutdown now in its second day. And one of the things, I was mentioning, of course, is how the messaging seems to be favoring Republicans right now. Even some folks in the mainstream media challenging the lie that this fight is not over. It's what the Democrats keep saying. It's not about giving illegals health care, but, we're still, maybe 10, 15%. maybe 20 is going in that direction. They get really upset when they get challenged on it. Okay. So here's what I'm getting at. And I'll tell you, the White House is really nonchalant. I think this is making a lot of people very nervous. Now, what do I mean by nonchalant? The Journal today quoted Lindsey Graham, senator from South Carolina, who they describe as a close Trump ally. Now, Lindsey Graham is wishy-washy. You remember Rush calling him Lindsey Grahamnesty. Lindsey Graham on the subject of illegals is not somebody I trust, okay? But notice what Lindsey Graham says. Graham predicts a shutdown might not last long. And this, according to the Wall Street Journal, they write, in part because of the specter of Vote. Russell Vote, he's the head of the OMB. This is a quote now from Lindsey Graham from this Wall Street Journal piece. This OMB guy, you need to watch him, Graham said. I think there's definitely a downside to a shutdown for the system. I think he'll try to wreak havoc on the workforce. Now, this is exactly what I referenced earlier with Caroline Leavitt. Thursday morning, this morning, she basically comes down, says a throng of reporters asking her what's going on, and she goes, "Look, we're gonna start laying people off."
Can you give us an estimate on the amount of federal workers that the Trump administration wants to fire during the government shutdown? Are we talking hundreds? Are we talking thousands?
Look, it's likely going to be in the thousands. It's a very new question, and that's something that the Office of Management and Budget and the entire team with the White House here, again, is unfortunately having to work on today. These discussions and these conversations, these things would not be happening if the Democrats had voted to keep the government.
Okay, a little shaky audio there, but you get the point. She goes, "That's not thousands," and it wouldn't be happening if the Democrats hadn't pulled the plug. Now, here's where it gets good. And I don't think that the Democrats, congressional Democrats, political Democrats, elected Democrats saw this fully out. I understand it that if these people are cut for budget reasons, it gives Trump much more power to do this than if he's just going in and doging people, meaning firing them for whatever reason. That if you don't have the money, that you can turn a furloughed employee into a fired employee. So there's that. The Democrats just gave Trump the ability to chainsaw off the parts of government that he doesn't want. I mean, I think this is the moment he's been waiting for. 2, this one's also important. You know, one of the things that isn't getting funded are courts. And the whole anti-Trump agenda, the whole strategy, right, relies on what? The Democrats. We were laying this out before Trump even took office. After the election, the Democrats getting together and talking about what they would do, how they would fight Trump, how they oppose, and everybody would say, the smart guys at least, were saying, don't worry, we're going to tie Trump up in so much litigation that you won't even know. Like, he won't even be able to move. And this just, all of it slows to a crawl, all these cases. And yet Trump, if he's doing deportations, can still use his military tribunals that he's been setting up. So my sense is that Trump sort of gets to do his thing during this shutdown if it ends up being protracted. And it simultaneously deliver a fatal blow potentially to the deep state, what's left of it. Maybe this is one of the reasons why the Democrats and the media are going, whoa, let's, come on, guys, like, I got to push back on you, and are not giving him as much cover as they normally would, because this is a concern. No, it's wild. Now, Cruz came right out and said this. I'll get to that after the break because we're up at the top of the hour here. But I want to be clear. It's just, to me, basically 90% upside for Trump and 90% downside for the Democrats. And the only thing the Democrats have is to maybe somehow hang this, millstone of shame of a government shutdown on Trump, that he can't be a deal maker, can't make it happen. But they've got to convince the American public that they're not trying to pull off some hanky-panky here, and they can't be known as people that are shutting down the government to help illegals. That's a non-starter. All right, back in a moment. What's Right Show brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. Day 2 of the government shutdown. The Schumer shutdown is on, and Democrats, I think, are losing the battle on this. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Greetings and welcome to the What's Right Show, your place for common sense conservatism, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. Sam@whatsrightshow.com. That's my email. You can reach me anytime. I do respond. I've got a few I want to respond to. One in particular that I want to give a thoughtful response to. So I usually like to do that in the evening or over the weekend, which we have a weekend coming up. Good. At What's Right Sam on X, formerly known as Twitter. Yes, find me there. And here's I think the best way to frame where Trump is on the shutdown. He wins either way. The Democrats will not get what they want. I don't see that happening. This shutdown either ends when they cave, Trump wins. This shutdown takes a while, dents Trump a little bit, potentially with voters, sure. Middle, independent voters confused about things, sure. But Trump is able to take a hacksaw to the government in a way that he was not able to up until this point. There are all apparently some rules about letting people go. A little bit easier to do it when you're in the middle of a shutdown and your funding's been cut. The government's fiscal year ended at the end of September. So starting in October, you're running into overtime. There's only one of two things you can do. You can pass a continuing resolution that says, all right, we're just going to continue the last year's budget for a period of time, which the Republican plan was to do that for 7 weeks. Original plan was months. 7 weeks, that's it, done. Democrats said no. The other thing is you pass a new budget. And of course they're arguing about this because this is what the Democrats intend to run on in 2026. If the Democrats don't get anything from Republicans, they risk going to their voters looking as useless as tits on a bull, right? That's the problem. Now, either way, Trump wins. And the key figure in all of this is Russell Vought. He is the director of the OMB. Now, this is, okay, for the OMB, this is the Office of Management and Budget. Think of this a little bit like the COO of the executive branch of government. He was the deputy director, by the way, in the first term from 17 to 21. And he was confirmed again in 2025, Trump's second term, as the big cheese, the director in charge. And a lot of Democrats are very familiar with Russ Vought because they had him as part of the Project 2025 crew. He's been recognized as an architect and co-author of that. Founded the Center for Renewing America. It's a think tank that informed much of the Project 2025 framework. He helped draft a lot of these executive orders that Trump's had, memos, staffing blueprints, all getting ready for what we now know, at least this part of it, the DOGE project. Now, he has always been promoting, I'm talking about Russ Vought here, who's the head of the OMB right now, who is about to get deployed with a chainsaw to the federal workforce. He's long promoted restructuring, deregulation, and mass layoffs in the federal workforce. This is what he's all about. He wants to get rid of, defund non-essential and ideologically opposed federal programs, right? All this fluff and nonsense, all of these patronage jobs, essentially, that feed the deep state, that feed the Democratic Party. Gone. They wants them done. Now, one bit of news today is that some unions, federal, what is this? The American Federation of Government Employees. It's a public sector union, right? These people have these great guaranteed for life jobs, and they still have unions. And these unions, by the way, who do they contribute money to all the time? Yeah, okay, you got it, Democrats. So they filed a plan. They are suing Trump over his illegal plan. They're getting ahead of this. And I don't know that that's going to go anywhere. Number one, these courts are now closed, which doesn't help the Democrats who are trying to get their favorite judges in their favorite districts to impede Trump's agenda. And then the other thing is Trump, as long as the shutdown's continuing, as I understand it, has greater right to do this than he ever has before. The Office of Management and Budget, the OMB, just put out a memo recently before the shutdown, and they urged federal agencies to consider firing employees if the government were to shut down. So they were prepping this. And Trump got asked on Tuesday, you heard Caroline Levitt today, getting asked how many people would get fired. Trump said we may do a lot. Caroline Levitt said something about in the thousands. Now, this is, if you're the Democrats, you're starting to lose your mind. Okay, this is bad news. And I think it explains why they're so testy. Particularly the Democrats who have always in the past been on the, I would say on the strong end of these shutdowns. Imagine for a minute you're Nancy Pelosi. You are 3 Chardonnays deep. You've lost your fastball even when you're sober. You're no longer Speaker Queen Bee of the Hill. You're now Speaker Emerita. You've been downgraded. Your office isn't the kind that Joe Biggs wants to put his work boots on. Well, he's the guy who on January 6th put his feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk. Okay, there's a famous picture. That's the reference. I think his name is Joe Biggs, right? Robbie looked that up. At any rate, so it just, she's just not who she was, 8 years ago. Not the same person with much less power. And the media, somebody caught up with her in the halls of Congress. She's still in Congress. She's still, representing San Francisco. She's still a very powerful person in the party. And I would think still calls a lot of the shots from behind the scenes. And Fox News, it was Fox that caught up with her yesterday, last night, in the midst of day one shutdown drama. And this reporter is asking her about AOC's little comment. Now, we talked about this yesterday, didn't we? AOC basically said, hey, my door's open to you. My door is open to, if anybody wants to negotiate with me, come into my office. Come negotiate. And my take on it yesterday, and it still holds today, is that behind the scenes here, there is a leadership battle within the Democratic Party. The party, via its younger, more radical members and senators who are aligned with the Democratic Socialists of America, for example, are wanting to rip away the old guard, leadership. And that's represented now primarily in Chuck Schumer. I predicted yesterday, and I still maintain it, that in the government shutdown, the biggest loser, politically speaking, will be Chuck Schumer, who has AOC gunning for his Senate seat. If AOC wins the primary in New York, Chuck Schumer is toast. In fact, I think if AOC I think Chuck Schumer's going to lose this. And if AOC runs against or intends to run against Schumer, he'll retire. So I'm going to take a break here. I'm going to play for, you will not believe, this is a very unusually testy Nancy Pelosi. I'll tell you what this means. Because not everything in this is what meets the eye. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT.
The Salmon Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Well, that was my mistake. Robbie, thanks for the correction. Richard Big O Barnett is a gentleman who put his feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk January 6th, 2021. Okay, speaking of Nancy Pelosi, this clip, and by the way, Sam Mirejovsky here, behind the What's Right microphone, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian at your service. Good to be here. All right. Fox News last night catches up with the former Speaker of the House, one of the most arguably powerful Democrats currently on the Hill, even though she's not currently the leader of the Democratic caucus. But here she is. She gets asked and immediately gets very testy about this characterization that AOC is going to be negotiating on behalf of the Democrats and working with Republicans to end the government Schumer shutdown.
There was a thought from the Republicans that AOC is directing this, and she said that senators are welcome to go to her office directly. Is she driving that?
Why are you saying such a ridiculous thing?
I'm just quoting what AOC said. She said go to her office directly. Do you think there's any credibility to that?
She's not directing this. She's wonderful. She's a real team player and the rest of that. You started by saying Republicans saying that she's directing this. She is not. Hakeem Jeffries is.
Okay. No, you started by saying she's Hakeem Jeffries is. There are two Democrats now, sides of the Democratic Party that are in power in Washington. There's the has-been Democrat. That's Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, whoever else you want to throw in there. And then there's the communists. I mean, that's what it is. You've got the people that are on their way out, who are, politically speaking, dead men walking. And then you've got the folks that, that are the socialists. And I'm to tell you right now, the emails I'm going to get. Sam, you forgot about John Fetterman. I'm glad you asked. Did you see John Fetterman's polling? His polling in Pennsylvania. Fetterman, of course, being the hulking senator from Pennsylvania who ran as a fairly liberal guy and then had a stroke and came out of it and basically is starting to talk sense and pretty conservative. He votes with Democrats, though. Do you see his polling? He's polling. The Democrats don't like him, and the Republicans do. I mean, point being is, if you are logical, if you are common sense, if you support Israel, for example, over, of course, Hamas, then you're a persona non grata in the Democratic Party. Okay? So you got the has-beens and you got the commie pinkos. The commie pinko, that's it. Now here's Nancy Pelosi's upset about this, not because She knows it's true. By the way, here's AOC the day before talking about how she's going to spearhead the
I
negotiations.
saw some Republican members of Congress saying, oh, well, if we have this shutdown, it's because of AOC. Well, if that's the case, my office is open and you are free to walk in and negotiate with me directly. Because what I'm not going to do is tolerate 4 million uninsured Americans because Donald Trump decided one day that he wants to just make sure that kids are dying because they don't have access to insurance. That's what's not going to happen. And so if those senators think that we're having a shutdown because of me, they're free to enter my office and negotiate.
Yeah, free to enter my office and negotiate. There it is. So is what she said. Nancy Pelosi pretending like it didn't happen, but there's a power struggle going on the Democratic side. By comparison, do you see any power struggle among Republicans? Let's put it another way. Is there a wing of the Democratic Party that doesn't include, outside of Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins and maybe one or two other people that are half dead in the Senate that are forming any kind of opposition bloc to Donald Trump, fighting, behind the scenes about the best way out of this Schumer shutdown? I'm telling you, I would tell you if I saw it. It just does not existing. It's not there. Meanwhile, speaking of half dead, you've got Sanders, Bernie, and AOC walking hand in hand, recording these kind of videos explaining the shutdown. It's better than anything any of the other Democrats are putting out there.
This is one of the dirtiest tricks that is being pulled on the American people right now. Starting today, October 1st, and throughout the rest of the month, Americans across this country are going to start getting notifications that their insurance premiums are up to doubling. We're talking about...
Say that again.
Your monthly insurance premiums are going to double for millions of people across the country.
At a time when we are already paying, by far, the highest prices in the world for health care, at a time when people can't afford it right now. So what happens?
That means people getting bankrupt over chemotherapy, people going to the pharmacy and not being able to get their insulin. And frankly, it means a lot of Americans are going to be in danger. And Republicans want us to rubber stamp that.
Bernie and AOC walking almost arm in arm, recording this video, which is way better than the kitty cat, oh, meow, meow, Trump is a cute kitty video nonsense slop that the Dems are putting out, that the party is putting out. Now, you have to remember back to 2016. I'm seeing now, 9 years in the making, Bernie's revenge coming to fruition. The party, and it's a family program, plus we're on the airwaves, I can't be vulgar, but the party screwed Bernie over. I think you know what other word I could use. They did him dirty. And Bernie, now don't get me wrong, again, Bernie's a communist, okay? No ifs, ands, or buts. Bernie has held that grudge, and now he's teaming up with the young socialists, and they're preparing a takeover of the party. Mark my words. Meanwhile, on our side of the aisle, we've cleaned up the mess. Trump has washed out the flim-flam, do-nothing, useless GOP rhinos. And they're out there, of course, but they don't have any real power. They're just keyboard warriors at this point. The neocons have been all but vanquished, and the party is united under a new Godhead. And I'm not trying to be blasphemous here. I'm just saying we've got Donaldus Maximus. We have J.D. Vance. We have Marco Rubio. We have so many great people. And I'm so encouraged because versus a year ago, I thought, okay, well, all right, what happens after Trump? Now I feel better about that. And just as we've got that sorted out, the Democrats are just coming apart at the seams. I wouldn't even be surprised if the party fractures. But more likely, given our nation's history, given how it went in the Republican Party, more likely is that the Democrats, the DNC, will be taken over by radicals. And will be driven by their angry voters, the same people that are out there that are so angry that they are celebrating Charlie Kirk getting murdered. Those same people will fuel the new socialist Democratic Party. Now, the Democrat Socialists will become the DNC. It's happening. And this is the acceleration here, right? This is the acceleration that is happening. This budget battle is part of it. Don't go anywhere. Back after this. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Rarely wrong, always right. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the What's Right show. There's a story out of California. I have to share this with you quick. Came out yesterday. Eyewitness News, Channel 7 in Southern California. The story is about a high-ranking official, Democrat, of course, official in California, the insurance commissioner. His name is Ricardo Lara. And he has been traveling up a storm. They did a report on this. Now, by the way, I always thought that these insurance commissioners, I practiced law in California for many years, still have a Sam and Ash office there in Newport Beach. We do a lot of work in California. Never has the Department of Insurance ever done anything good for a person with a claim. That's the wildest thing. So the Department of Insurance, at its fundamental level, ought to represent as a public interest agency individuals who are getting wronged by insurance companies. But it doesn't work this way. And it's honestly, I've always said this, so many years of talking about this, that these guys are just, milking this job, it's an elected position. For all it's worth, this guy, new levels. Here, let me play this is the Eyewitness News clip about the story. This aired last night. And well, I just tell you, this just it's unbelievable.
California's insurance commissioner is a frequent flyer, jet-setting across country, but mostly all over the world. A nice gig, right? Especially if taxpayers are picking up the tab, upgrading his flights to business and first class, expensing the 5-star resort stays, chauffeurs, limo service, even a safari. The list goes on. Thousands of records obtained by 7 on Your Side Investigates show California's insurance commissioner Ricardo Lara racked up the receipts in recent years. At least 48 trips across the globe to virtually every dot you see on this map since he assumed office in 2019. And that may just be scratching the tarmac, as years of his travel records remain missing from the state.
That's the biggest concern. If you were to ask my office the purpose of government travel, we'd be able to identify every single benefit that came from these trips.
But after 9 months of questioning, the California Department of Insurance was unable to specify those reasons for a series of trips, including a 5-star hotel stay in New York City for Pride Fest that cost taxpayers more than $11,600. The 4-day trip listed no insurance-related meetings on his calendar, but a VIP rooftop event with DJ Kitty Glitter made the cut.
It's not funny. Sam, why are you laughing? DJ Kitty Glitter. Yeah, well, he spent $12,000 of taxpayer money in California on going on a gay trip. I mean, it's what it is. And look, this is why we vote Republican. This is why I'm a conservative. You want to talk about the government shutdown? You want to talk about getting rid of tens of thousands of people? This guy's an elected official, can't get rid of it. But you want to fix California? Get rid of the insurance commissioner. He doesn't do anything. And he's proof of this. Literally, he's traveling around because he's got time to do it. And he's got, those of you out in California, he's got your money to burn. By the way, it's really nice here in Nevada. Love Las Vegas, great place. Other places in the state, very nice too. I highly suggest you come over and move. But I digress. Again, this is what I do for a living. I know how to fight an insurance company on a denied claim. That's what I do. I'll get it done for you. I'll get it done for you in 3-4 months. Insurance commission won't even return your phone call because he's busy off at Pride Fest with DJ Kitty Glitter. The private sector has solutions for your problems. But the Democrats don't actually want to solve problems. They build a bureaucracy that then takes money and distributes it to people that ensure the Democrats remain in power and politically powerful. It becomes a self-perpetuating political machine, right? Tax dollars flow in, political contributions flow out, more Democrats get elected, more money then flows in, more contributions flow out, bada boom, bada bang. That's how this works. This guy spent $7,000 on taxi fares during his trip to Colombia. Not the District of Columbia, to the country of Colombia. It's just wild, maddening. This is just one little story. It's one little story. Now, the fact that Channel 7, which is, these local TV channels are not necessarily political. The people tend to be pretty liberal there, but they're not overtly political. They talk about, robberies and carjackings and the cool thing that happened at school, somewhere, whatever, that kind of stuff. They cover local news. The fact that they're covering this scandal of a Democrat in the state of California is really astounding. It has to get really bad for that to come out. This is what, and by the way, you just see Ted Cruz talk about these cuts. Do you see him? Ted Cruz went on TV. I think he was on Fox Business, and he delivered this thing about cutting the workforce. And he got into a little bit of heat here. Let me play the clip.
Chuck Schumer and the Democrats force a shutdown, which they now have, that President Trump is going to use that as an opportunity not to tell people you're furloughed for a few days, but instead to send pink slips and to get rid of left-wing bureaucrats who are imposing left-wing priorities that are contrary to President Trump's priorities. I think that is fantastic, and what it's going to do is it's going to cause Democrats in Congress to scream and weep and gnash their teeth. I cannot wait for the next Democrat lunch when they start screaming at each other, when they start seeing pink slips go out at the EPA, at the Department of Labor, at the IRS, and suddenly the bureaucrats that they are entrusting to advance their job-killing agenda are themselves without a job. That's what's going to end this shutdown, as the Democrats are realizing that President Trump is making major advances for economic liberty as a result of the Democrats' temper tantrum.
Well, let me tell you something. Okay. Ted Cruz here got himself, he got some pushback. Democrats are claiming what he's saying was illegal. That you can't target people for their political beliefs. Well, it's not a protected class, but, there could be a colorable case there that it's, a politically targeted cuts. But here's what he actually said, and this is why I'm playing the whole clip. Send pink slips and to get rid of left-wing bureaucrats, it's the next part of the sentence, who are imposing left-wing priorities that are contrary to President Trump's priorities. Now, why does the second part of that make it completely legal? Because the courts now have several times, even when it's gone up to the Supreme Court, but even lower level appellate courts have ruled that Trump is within his rights as the president to fire people. And the federal government must follow the directive of the president. If the president tells his government to do X, they have to do it. And if they obstruct, they should get fired for cause. It's so simple. I mean, imagine you at work, your boss says, hey, Sam, I need you to do this. And then I decide not to do it because I think my boss is an idiot. Now, you're not getting fired for not liking your boss or not being in tune with your boss politically. You're going to get fired. If it was me doing it, I'd get fired for insubordination. Plain and simple. So to the extent this materializes as a lawsuit, is also going to blow up in the Democrats' face. And back to the Schumer shutdown, back to this, situation that we're in here, second day. I very much see this as all upside, basically all upside for Trump and for the Republicans, which is why they're so confident. As why the Democrats are spitting, spitting mad and are so feisty in all of their exchanges with the media on this. I remember what I said about the socialists taking over the Democratic Party. Monday on CNN, Zohran Mamdani had a little interview, and he let the truth slip, right? He's trying to present himself as this moderate guy. He's trying to make inroads. It's a closing pitch here to win the race in New York. And Zohran Mamdani is, someone who very much is of the Democratic Socialist ilk, right? He's this guy, this new face of the Democratic Party. And this is what he said, because this is how dangerous of times we live and how far left the Democrats are going.
This vision of democratic socialism, it's one that often comes back to what Martin Luther King said decades ago. A vision of, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism, there must be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country.
A better distribution of wealth. A better distribution of wealth. Well, I've heard this before. This seductive proposition was tried during the Russian Revolution, the Bolshevik Revolution. As quickly as the Soviet regime took power, the Bolsheviks took power, what did they do? They took everyone's stuff and kept it. Do you think it was given to the poor? By the time the Soviet Union was, breathing its last breaths, the poverty levels of the country were immense. Yet the folks that were ruling the country, the Politburo members, party members, administrators, local government administrators, all these people that had, some power, some political power, lived tremendously well. In the Czech Republic, then Czechoslovakia under the communists, remember they came to power there in 1948, so later than they did in Russia, 40 short years completely bankrupted the country and drove up poverty levels immensely. The only reason we don't talk about it is that the people that wrote the textbooks when I was a kid here in the U.S. were themselves very much proponents of communism and were constantly shilling for communists around the world. I had teachers flat out in class tell me how great communism was. I was like, well, I beg to differ, and I know some people. I have some family who definitely have had a different experience with it than you have sitting here in Orange County, California. But one of the best stories I love this as an illustrative example. Ordinary people, if you were a worker in the socialist utopian state, if you were just a worker, you got what you got. But party members, they even had their own resorts. There was a resort up in the mountains, and it's still there, but it's basically been abandoned, and it's kind of people go there and film videos. It's all come falling apart. but it was a luxury resort built only for the You couldn't go there. You couldn't pass through the gates if you were an ordinary person. You couldn't save up money and splurge on one big trip. You just weren't even allowed. I don't know. I have a word for that. I think it's apartheid. If you really want to get, specific. But that's what Mamdani wants. He's looking around Park Avenue going, I wonder which one of these penthouses I'm going to take. I'm going to redistribute. That Gracie Mansion, the residence of the mayor, that's not really my thing. I want a fancy apartment with park views. Let me go find a place. Communists, high-ranking communists, after every communist revolution, they drove around town looking for a place they'd want. They find a place, they call in the police, move out the rightful owners who lived there 5 years, 50 years, didn't matter, moved them out, cleaned it up, moved in. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT, The What's Right Show, brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right. Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Okay. Some news. I wanted to mention this. I know a couple days ago this was announced. Trump's library is going to get built in Florida. So it's gotten approved, his presidential library. I'm guessing it's going to be a lot prettier than the facility, the ugly building that Obama is building in Chicago. Have you seen the Obama library going up? It's rising. I think this thing is like $1 billion. And it looks like, what was it in Star Wars? Those little, Robbie, help me out here. My kids would be embarrassed if I didn't know this. The sand crawler, the sand people, whatever they are, they go around picking up the droids, and they've got that giant, slow moving tank-like vehicle with no windows and one giant loading bay. Okay. The Jawas. Yes. Okay. And what was that? What's that vehicle called? The Sandcrawler. Yes, that's what. Well, the Obama library, I don't know if you see it, but it's like the Sandcrawler being just stuck up. It's so bad. And I think Trump's going to build something beautiful. Speaking of Trump building things, they're melting down right now. That the ballroom, the Trump ballroom, he's going to add a giant ballroom to the White House, and he's paying for it out of his own pocket. So there's all these reports about how, well, the kids are going to starve. People aren't going to have their health care, but Trump still is going to get his ballroom because the work is continuing on the ballroom. And every time I see one of those posts, I see somebody say something about it on The View or whatever, I'm like screaming over it. I'm like, this is what happens when you pay for it out of your own pocket as president. The man isn't taking a salary. Last I heard, he's still not taking a paycheck. And he's fixing things at the White House on his own dime. I don't know. The last guy was trying to figure out how he could milk the office for every last cent it was possible. Ditto, by the way, Obama, the Clintons. Oh my God. Clintons, when they moved out of the White House, they stole stuff. Remember? It's a big scandal. Hillary was forced. They literally went after Hillary and said, you've got to return this stuff. Was she ever criminally charged? Was Bill ever criminally charged for that? It was a felony. No. Of course, Trump's the guy that, gets reamed by every prosecutor, left, right, up, and down, right? After he leaves office. So this is, he put up the flagpole in the White House. He made that beautiful patio that was the Rose Garden. It's a place for people to sit outside, and there's tables there. beautiful, beautiful improvements. I really do predict, this is how messed up the Democrats are. I predict that if, gosh forbid, I don't see it happening, but imagine that we have President Gavin Newsom. Just had a shiver go through me. I bet you he would probably run on a platform of ripping it all up. This is the kind of hateful people. This is how destructive they are. It's food for thought. It really is. Yeah, but no, there are people out there saying it. Next person who comes into office, rip it all up. It's out there. All right, Twitter, X, you know where to find me, at What's Right Sam, at What's Right Sam. I mentioned yesterday, my friend Ed, he's on X. I mean, he loves it. He's following all the right people. You can follow me there too. All right, email sam@whatsrightshow.com. I do check it here, and I will get back to all of you. I promise. I'm on it. All right, let's see what happens tomorrow. I'll be here. Same time, same place. You know the drill. Sam Mirejovsky, the What's Right Show, brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam & Ash. Don't delay. 15-minute phone call or less, and just get the whole hassle off of you and on to us. Mark Levin up next. Be well, folks. Take care.